Dr. N. The curriculum for souls seems to have great variety, Thies. I want to go into another aspect of your training. Does your energy utilize the properties of light, heat, and motion in the creation of life? Subject, startled. You know about that? Dr. N. What more can you tell me? Subject, only that I am familiar with this. Dr. N. I don't want to talk about anything which will make you uncomfortable, but I would appreciate your confirmation of certain biological effects resulting from the actions of souls. Subject hesitates. I don't think... Dr. N, I jump in quickly. What creation have you recently done which makes Kumara proud of you? Subject, without resistance. I am proficient with fish. Dr. N. I follow up with a deliberate exaggeration to keep her going. Oh, so you can create a whole fish with your mental energy? Subject, vexed. You must be kidding. Dr. N. Then where do you start? Subject. With the embryos, of course. I thought you knew. Dr. N. Just checking. When do you think you will be ready for mammals? Subject. No answer. Dr. N. Look, Thies, if you will try to cooperate with me for a few more minutes, I promise not to take long with my questions on this subject. Will you agree to that? Subject. Pause. We will see. Dr. N. Okay. As a means of basic clarification, tell me what you actually do with your energy to develop life up to the stage of fish. Subject, reluctantly. We give instructions to organisms within the surrounding conditions. Dr. N. Do you do this on one world or many in your training? Subject. More than one. Would not elaborate except to say these planets were Earth types. Dr. N. In what kind of environment are you working now? Subject. In oceans. Dr. N. With basic sea life such as algae and plankton? Subject. When I started. Dr. N. You mean before you worked up to the embryos of fish? Subject. Yes. Dr. N. Then when souls start to create forms of life, they begin with microorganisms? Subject. Small cells, yes. And this is very difficult to learn. Dr. N. Why? Subject. The cells of life. Our energy cannot become proficient unless we can direct it to alter molecules. Dr. N. Then you are actually producing new chemical compounds by mixing the basic molecular elements of life by your energy flow? Subject nods. Dr. N. Can you be more explicit? Subject. No, I can't. Dr. N. Let me try and sum this up, and please tell me if I am on the wrong track. A soul who becomes proficient with actually creating life must be able to split cells and give DNA instructions, and you do this by sending particles of energy into protoplasm? Subject. We must learn to do this, yes, coordinating it with the sun's energy. Dr. N. Why? Subject. Because each sun has different energy effects on the worlds around them. Dr. N. Then why would you interfere with what a sun would naturally do with its own energy on a planet? Subject. It is not interference. We examine new structures, mutations, to watch and see what is workable. We arrange substances for their most effective use with different suns. Dr. N. When a species of life evolves on a planet, are the environmental conditions for selection and adaptation natural? Or are intelligent soul minds tinkering with what happens? Subject, evasively. Usually a planet hospitable to life has souls watching, and whatever we do is natural. Dr. N. How can souls watch and influence biological properties of growth, evolving over millions of years on a primordial world? Subject. Time is not in Earth years for us. We use it to suit our experiments. Dr. N, do you personally create suns in our universe? Subject, a full-scale sun? Oh no, that's way over my head, and requires the powers of many. I generate only on a small scale. Dr. N, what can you generate? Subject, small bundles of highly concentrated matter, heated. Dr. N, but what does your work look like when you are finished? Subject, small solar systems. Dr. N, are your miniature suns and planets the size of rocks, buildings, the moon? What are we talking about here? Subject laughs. My suns are the size of basketballs, and the planets, marbles. That's the best I can do. Dr. N, why do you do this on a small scale? Subject, for practice, so I can make larger suns. After enough compression, the atoms explode and condense, but I can't do anything really big alone. Dr. N, what do you mean? Subject, we must learn to work together to combine our energy for the best results. Dr. N, well, who does the full-size thermonuclear explosions which create physical universes in space itself? Subject, the source, the concentrated energy of the old ones. Dr. N, oh, so the source has help? Subject, I think so. Dr. N, why is your energy striving to create universal matter and more complex life when Kumara and the entities above her are already proficient? Subject, we are expected to join them, just as they wish to unite their accomplished energy with the old ones. Creation questions always evoke the issue of first cause. Was the exploding interstellar mass which caused the birth of our stars and planets an accident of nature or planned by an intelligent force? When I listen to subjects such as Thies, I ask myself why souls would be practicing the chain reactions of energy matter with models on a small scale, if they were not intending to make larger celestial bodies. I have had no subjects in level 6 and above to substantiate how they might carry the forces of creation further. It would seem if souls do progress, then entities at this level could be expected to involve themselves with the birthing of planets and the development of life forms capable of higher intelligence suitable for soul use. After pondering why less than perfect souls are associated with creation at all, I came to the following conclusion. All souls are given the opportunity to participate in the development of lower forms of intelligent life in order to advance themselves. This principle could also be applied to the reason why souls incarnate in physical form. Thies suggested that the supreme intelligence she calls the Source is made up of a combination of creators, the Old Ones, who fuse their energy to spawn universes. The thought has been expressed to me in different ways by other subjects when they describe the combined power of non-reincarnating old souls. This concept is not new. For instance, the idea we have no single godhead is the philosophy of the Jainist sect in India. The Jains believe fully perfected souls, called Siddhas, are a group of universal creators. These souls are fully liberated from further transmigrations. Below them are the Arhat souls, advanced illuminators who still incarnate along with 3 more lower gradations of evolving souls. To the Jains, reality is uncreated and eternal. Thus, the Siddhas need no creator. Most Eastern philosophies deny this tenet of Jainism in favor of a divine board of directors created by a chairman. This conclusion is more palatable to the Western mind as well. With certain subjects, it is possible to pursue a wide range of topics in condensed periods. Earlier, Thies had alluded to intelligent life existing on other worlds when she talked about a soul's cosmic training. This brings up another aspect about soul life, which may be hard for some of us to accept. A small percentage of my subjects, usually the older advanced souls, are able to recall being in strange, non-human, intelligent life forms on other worlds. Their memories are rather fleeting and clouded about the circumstances of these lives, the physical details, and planetary location relative to our universe. I wondered if Thies had any such experiences long ago, so I opened up this line of inquiry for a few minutes to see where it might lead. Dr. N, a while back, you remarked about other physical worlds besides Earth, which are available to souls. Subject, hesitant. Yes. Dr. N, casually. And I assume some of these planets support intelligent life, which are useful to souls wishing to incarnate. Subject. That's true, there are many schoolyards. Dr. N, do you ever talk to other souls about their planetary schoolyards? Subject. Long pause. It's not my inclination to do so. I'm not attracted to them, the other schools. Dr. N, perhaps you could give me some idea of what they're like? Subject. Oh, some are analytical schools. Others are basically mental worlds, subtle places. Dr. N, what do you think of the Earth School by comparison? Subject. The Earth School is insecure still. It is filled with resentment of many people over being led and antagonism of the leaders toward each other. There is so much fear to overcome here. It is a world in conflict because there's too much diversity among too many people. Other worlds have low populations with more harmony. Earth's population has outpaced its mental development. Dr. N, would you rather be training on another planet then? Subject. No. For all Earth's quarreling and cruelty, there is passion and bravery here. I like working in crisis situations, to bring order out of disorder. We all know Earth is a difficult school. Dr. N, so the human body is not an easy host for souls? Subject. There are easier life forms, who are less in conflict with themselves. Dr. N, well, how would you know this unless your soul had been in another life form? After I had provided this suitable opening, Thies began talking about being a small flying creature in an alien environment on a dying world where it was hard to breathe. From her descriptions, the sun of this planet was apparently going into a nova stage. Her words were halting and came in short, rapid breaths. Thies said she lived on this world in a humid jungle with a night sky so densely packed with stars there were no dark lanes in between. This gave me the impression she was located near the center of a galaxy, perhaps our own. She also said her brief time on this world was spent as a very young soul, and Kumara was her mentor. After the world could no longer support life, they had come to Earth to continue working together. I was told there was a kinship in the mental evolution of life on Earth and what she had experienced before. This flying race of people began afraid, isolated, and dangerous to each other. Also, like Earth, family alliances were important, representing expressions of loyalty and devotion. While I was concluding this line of questioning, there was a further development. Dr. N, so do you think there are other souls on Earth who also had physical lives on this now-dead world? Subject paused, then unable to restrain herself. Actually, I have met one. Dr. N, under what circumstances? Subject laughs. I met a man at a party a while ago. He recognized me. Not physically, but with the mind. It was an odd meeting. I was caught off balance when he came up to me and took my hand. I thought he was pushy when he said he knew me. Dr. N, then what happened? Subject softly. I was in a daze, which is unusual for me. I knew there was something between us. I thought it was sexual. Now I can see it all clearly. It was Ikak. This name is spoken with a clacking noise from the back of her throat. He told me we were once together from a place far away, and there were a couple of others here. Dr. N, did he say anything more about them? Subject, faintly. No, I wonder. I ought to know them. Dr. N, Did Ikak say anything else about your former physical relationship on this world? Subject: No. He saw I was confused. I didn't know what he was talking about then anyway. Dr. N: How could he consciously know about this planet when you didn't? Subject, puzzled: He is ahead of me. He knows Kumara. Then more to herself than me: What is he doing here? Dr. N: Why don't you finish telling me about him at the party? Subject laughs again. I thought he was just trying to pick me up. It was awkward because I was drawn to him. He said I was very attractive, which is something men don't usually say to me. There were flashes in my mind that we had been together before, as fragments in a dream sequence. Dr. N: How did your conversation end with this man? Subject: He saw my discomfort. I guess he thought it best to have no further contact because I haven't seen him since. I've thought about him, though, and maybe we will see each other again. I believe souls do come across time and space for each other. Recently, I had two subjects who were best friends and came to me at the same time for regression. Not only had they been soulmates in many former lives on Earth, but were also mated as fish-like intelligent beings in a beautiful water world. Both recalled the enjoyment of playing underwater with their strong appendages and coming up to the surface to peak. Neither subject could recall much about this planet or what happened to their race of sea creatures. Perhaps they were part of a failed Earth experiment long before a land mammal developed into the most promising species on Earth for souls. I suspect it was not Earth, because I have had others who tell of living in an aquatic environment they know was unearthly. One of these subjects said, My water world was very warm and clear because we had 3 suns overhead. The total lack of darkness underwater was comforting and made building our dwellings much easier. I have often wondered if the dreams we have at night about flying, breathing underwater, and performing other non-human physical feats relate to our earlier physical experiences in other environments. In the early days of my studies of souls, I half expected that those subjects who could recall other worlds would say they had lived in our galaxy within the neighborhood of the Sun. This assumption was naive. Earth is in a sparse section of the Milky Way, with only 8 stars that are 10 light-years from the Sun. We know our own galaxy has more than 200 billion stars, within a universe currently speculated at 100 billion galaxies. The worlds around the suns which might support life are staggering to the imagination. Consider, if only a small fraction of 1% of the stars in our galaxy had planets with intelligent life useful to souls, the number would still be in the millions. From what I can gather from subjects willing and able to discuss former assignments, souls are sent to any world with suitable intelligent life forms. Out of all the stars which are known to us, only 4% are like our Sun. Apparently, this means nothing to souls. Their planetary incarnations are not linked to Earth-type worlds or with intelligent bipeds who walk on land. Souls who have been to other worlds tell me they have a fondness for certain ones and return to them, like Earth, periodically for a succession of lives. I have not had many subjects who are able to recall specific details about living on other worlds. This may be due to lack of experience, a suppression of memory, or blocks imposed by master guides to avoid any discomfort from flashbacks in non-earthly bodies. Those subjects who are able to discuss their experiences on other worlds tell me that before coming to Earth, souls are frequently placed in the bodies of creatures with less intelligence than human beings, unlike Thesa's case. However, once in a human body, souls are not sent back down the mental evolutionary ladder. Yet, physical contrasts can be stark, and side trips away from Earth are not necessarily pleasant. One mid-level client of mine expressed it this way. After a long series of human lives, I told my guide I needed a break from Earth for a while in another kind of environment. He warned me, "You might not like this change right now because you have become so accustomed to to the attributes of the human mind and body. My client persisted and was duly given life on what was described as a pastel world living among a race of small, thickly set beings. They were a thoughtful but somber people, with tiny chalk-white faces which never smiled. Without human laughter and physical flexibility, I was out of sync and made little progress. The assignment must have been particularly difficult for this individual when we consider that humor and laughter is such a hallmark of soul life in the spirit world. I was now approaching the final phase of my session with Case 23. It was necessary to apply additional deepening techniques because I wanted Thies to reach into the highest recesses of her superconscious mind to talk with me about space-time and the source. Dr. N. Thies, we are coming to the end of our time together, and I want you to turn your mind once again to the source, creator. Pause. Will you do that for me? Subject. Yes. Dr. N. You said the ultimate objective of souls was to seek unification with the supreme source of creative energy. Do you remember? Subject. The act of conjunction. Yes. Dr. N. Tell me, does the source dwell in some special central space in the spirit world? Subject. The source is the spirit world. Dr. N. Then why do souls speak of reaching a core of spiritual life? Subject. When we are young spirits, we sense power around us everywhere, and yet we feel we are on the edge of it. As we grow older, there is an awareness of a concentrated power, but it is the same feeling. Dr. N. Even though you have called this the place of the old ones? Subject. Yes. They are part of the concentrated power of the source which sustains us as souls. Dr. N. Well, lumping this power together as one energy source, can you describe the Creator in more human terms? Subject. As the ultimate selfless being which we strive to be. Dr. N. If the source represents all the spirit world, how does this mental place differ from physical universes with stars, planets, and living things? Subject. Universes are created to live and die for the use of the source. The place of spirits is the source. Dr. N. We seem to live in a universe which is expanding and may contract again and eventually die. Since we live in a space with time limitations, how can the spirit world itself be timeless? Subject. Because here we live in non-space, which is timeless, except in certain zones. Dr. N. Please explain what these zones are. Subject. They're interconnecting doors, openings for us to pass through into a physical universe of time. Dr. N. How can time doors exist in non-space? Subject. The openings exist as thresholds between realities. Dr. N. Well, if the spirit world is non-dimensional, what kind of reality is that? Subject. A constant reality state, as opposed to the shifting realities of dimensional worlds, which are material and changing. Dr. N. Do past, present, and future have any relevance for souls living in the spirit world? Subject. Only as a means of understanding succession in physical form. Living here, there is a changelessness. For those of us not crossing thresholds into a universe of substance and time. Note: a major application of time thresholds used by souls will be examined in the upcoming chapter on life selection. Dr. N. You speak of universes in the plural. Are these other physical universes besides the one which contains Earth? Subject, vaguely. There are differing realities to suit the source. Dr. N. Are you saying souls can enter various rooms of different physical realities from spiritual doorways? Subject, nods. Yes, they can, and do. Before concluding the session with this highly advanced subject, I should add that most people who are in deep hypnosis are able to see beyond an earth reality of three-dimensional space into alternate realities of timelessness. In their subconscious state, my subjects experience a chronology of time with their past and present lives, which resembles what they perceive when conscious. There is a change when I take them into superconsciousness and the spirit world. Here they see the now of time as one homogeneous unit of past, present, and future. Seconds in the spirit world seem to represent years on Earth. When their sessions are over, clients will often express surprise at how time in the spirit world is unified. Quantum mechanics is a modern branch of physics which investigates all subatomic movement in terms of electromagnetic energy levels, where all things in life are thought to be ultimately non-solid and existing in a unified field. Going beyond Newton's physical laws of gravity, the elements of action on time are also considered to be unified by light wave frequency and kinetic energy. Since I show that souls do experience feelings of the passage of time in a chronological fashion in the spirit world, doesn't this contradict the concept of oneness for past, present, and future? No, it does not. My research indicates to me that the illusion of time progression is created and sustained for those souls coming to and from physical dimensions, who are used to such biological responses as aging, so they may more easily gauge their advancement. Thus, it makes sense to me when the quantum physicists hypothesize that time, rather than being an absolute of three phases, is only an expression of change. When my subjects speak of traveling as souls on lines which curve, I think of the space-time theories of those astrophysicists who believe light and motion are a union of time and space curving back on itself. They say if space is bent severely enough, time stops. Indeed, when listening to my clients talk about time zones and tunnels of passage into different dimensions, I think about the similarities here to current astronomical theories of physical space being warped or twisted into cosmic loops creating mouths of hyperspace and black holes which may lead out of our three-dimensional universe. Perhaps the space-time concepts of astrophysics and metaphysics are edging closer together. I have suggested to my subjects that if the spirit world seems round to them and appears to curve when they travel rapidly as souls, this could represent a finite enclosed sphere. They deny the idea of any dimensional boundaries, yet offer me little else except metaphors. Case 23 says the spirit world itself is the source of creation. Some have called this place the heart or breath of God. Case 22 defined the space of souls as fabric, and I have had other subjects give the spirit world a quality of the folds of a seamless dress swishing back and forth. They sometimes feel the effects of a gently rippling motion from light energy, which has been described as waves or rings rolling outward from a disturbed pool of water. Normally, the geography of soul spaces has a smooth and open consistency to people in superconsciousness, without displaying the properties of gravity, temperature, pressure, matter, or a time clock associated with a chaotic physical universe. However, when I attempt to characterize the entire spirit world as a void, people in trance resist this notion. Although my cases are unable to fully explain the place where their souls live, they are all outspoken about its ultimate reality for them. A subject in trance doesn't see the spirit world as being either near or far away from our physical universe. Nevertheless, in a curious way, they do portray spiritual substance as being light or heavy, thick or thin, and large or small, when comparing their experiences as souls to life on Earth. While the absolute reality of the spirit world appears to remain constant in the minds of people in hypnosis, their references to other physical dimensions do not. I have the sense that universes other than our own are created for the purpose of providing environments suitable for the growth of souls with beings we can't even imagine. One advanced subject told me he had lived on a number of worlds in his long existence, never dividing his soul more than twice at one time. Some adult lives lasted only months in Earth time for him, due to local planetary conditions and short lifespans of the dominant life form. While speaking of a paradise planet, with few people and a quieter, simpler version of Earth, he added this world was not far from Earth. "Oh," I interrupted, "then it must only be a few light years from Earth?" He patiently explained that the planet was not in our universe, but closer to Earth than many planets in our own galaxy. It is important for the reader to understand that when people do recall living on other worlds, they seem not to be limited by the dimensional constraints of our universe. When souls travel to planets intergalactically or interdimensionally, they measure the trip by the time it takes them to reach their destinations through the tunnel effect from the spirit world. The size of the spatial region involved and the relative position of worlds to each other are also considerations. After listening to references about multiple dimensional realities from some of my subjects, I am left with the impression they believe there is a confluence of all these dimensional streams into one great river of the spirit world. If I could stand back and take apart all these alternate realities seated in the minds of my cases, it would be like peeling an artichoke of all its layers down to one heart at the core. I had been questioning Thais for quite a while, and I could see she was growing tired. Few subjects can sustain this level of spiritual receptivity for very long. I decided to end the session with a few questions about the genesis of all creation. Dr. N. Thais, I want to close by asking you more about the source. You have been a soul for a long time, so how do you see yourself relating to the oneness of creation you told me about earlier? Subject, long pause. By sensations of movement. In the beginning, there is an outward migration of our soul energy from the source. Afterward, our lives are spent moving inward, toward cohesion and the uniting. Dr. N, you make this process seem as though a living organism was expanding and contracting. Subject, there is an explosive release, then a returning. Yes, the source pulsates. Dr. N, and you are moving toward the center of this energy source? Subject, there really is no center. The source is all around us as if we were inside a beating heart. Dr. N, but you did say you were moving back to a point of origin as your soul advanced in knowledge. Subject, yes. When I was thrust outward, I was a child. Now I'm being drawn back as my adolescence fades. Dr. N, back where? Subject, further inside the source. Dr. N, perhaps you could describe this energy source through the use of colors to explain soul movement in the scope of creation. Subject, sighs. It's as if souls are all part of a massive electrical explosion which produces a halo effect. In this circular halo is a dark purple light which flares out, lightening to a whiteness at the edges. Our awareness begins at the edges of brilliant light, and as we grow, we become more engulfed in the darker light. Dr. N, I find it hard to visualize a God of creation as cold, dark light. Subject, that's because I am not close enough to conjunction to explain it well. The dark light is itself a covering beyond which we feel an intense warmth, full of a knowing presence, which is everywhere for us and alive. Dr. N, what was it like when you were first aware of your identity as a soul after being pushed out to the rim of this halo? Subject, to be is the same as watching the first flower of spring open, and the flower is you. And as it opens more, you become aware of other flowers in a glorious field, and there is unbounded joy. Dr. N, if this explosive, multicolored energy source collapses in on itself, will all the flowers eventually die? Subject, nothing is collapsing. The source is endless. As souls, we will never die. We know that somehow. As we coalesce, our increasing wisdom makes the source stronger. Dr. N, is that the reason the source desires to perform this exercise? Subject, yes, to give life to us so we can arrive at a state of perfection. Dr. N, why does a source, who is ostensibly perfect already, need to create further intelligence which is less than perfect? Subject, to help the Creator create. In this way, by self-transformation and rising to higher plateaus of fulfillment, we add to the building blocks of life. Dr. N, were souls forced to break away from the source and come to places like Earth because of some sort of original sin or fall from grace in the spirit world? Subject, that's nonsense. We came to be magnified in the beautiful variety of creation. Dr. N, Thais, I want you to listen to me carefully. If the source needs to be made stronger or more wise by using a division of its divine energy to create lesser intelligence, which it hopes will magnify, doesn't this suggest it lacks full perfection itself? Subject, pause. The source creates for fulfillment of itself. Dr. N, that's my point. How can that which is absolute become more absolute unless something is lacking? Subject, hesitates. That which we see to be our source is all we can know. And we think what the Creator desires is to express itself through us by birthing. Dr. N, and do you think the source is actually made stronger by our existence as souls? Subject, long pause. I see the Creator's perfection, maintained and enriched, by sharing the possibility of perfection with us, and this is the ultimate extension of itself. Dr. N, so the source starts out by deliberately creating imperfect souls and imperfect life forms for these souls, and watches what happens in order to extend itself? Subject, yes. And we have to have faith in this decision and trust the process of returning to the origin of life. One has to be starving to appreciate food, or cold to understand the blessings of warmth, and to be children to see the value of the parent. The transformation gives us purpose. Dr. N, do you want to be a parent of souls? Subject, participation in the conception of ourselves is a dream of mine. Dr. N, if our spirits did not experience physical life, would we ever know of these things you are telling me about? Subject, we would know of them, but not about them. It would be as if your spiritual energy were told to play piano scales with only one note. Dr. N, and do you believe if the source didn't create souls to nurture and grow, its sublime energy would shrink from a lack of expression? Subject, sighs. Perhaps that is its purpose. With this last prophetic statement by Thais, I ended the session. As I brought this subject out of her deep trance, it was as though she were returning to me from across time and space. As she sat quietly focusing her eyes around my office, I expressed my appreciation for the opportunity of working with her on such an advanced level. Smiling, the lady said if she had any idea of the grilling in store for her, she might well have refused to work with me. As we said goodbye, I thought about her last statements concerning the source of life. In ancient Persia, the Sufis had a saying that if the Creator represents absolute good, and therefore absolute beauty, it is the nature of beauty to desire manifestation.